Okay, so we're going to look now at curve sketching. This is quite often a really big question in your exam. And to sketch a curve properly, we need to know where it crosses the y-axis, where it crosses the x-axis, and we need to know about the turning point, where it is, and is it maximum or is it minimum. So we'll start off by looking at quadratic graphs, and then in the next exercise we'll move on to cubic graphs. So our first question is to sketch y equals 3x squared plus 22x minus 16. So quite often in your exam, the question will lead you through this. The first part of the question will be find where it crosses the y-axis. Second part, find where it crosses x. Then what's the turning point, the nature of the turning point, then sketch the curve. So we're just doing it all as one here. So first of all then, where it crosses the y-axis. So where it crosses the y-axis, that's where x is naught. So y is 3 times naught plus 22 times naught minus 16. So we get that y is minus 16. So there's our first coordinate then, naught minus 16. Now look where it crosses the x-axis. So it crosses that when y is naught. And you can see now we've got a quadratic to solve. So this one happens to factorise. You may get a quadratic that you have to use the quadratic formula to solve. This gives us our two values for x for 2/3 and minus 8. So our coordinates are 2/3 naught and minus 8 naught. And then our turning point. Now this is a quadratic graph, so there's only going to be one turning point. If it was cubic, there would be two turning points. So for turning points, you know you need dy by dx. So let's differentiate this, and we get 6x plus 22. For turning points then, this equals to naught. So x is minus 22 over 6, or minus 11 over 3. We need then the y coordinate for that. So we need to put it back into the formula for a curve. And that gives us the y coordinate is minus 169 over 3. Prove then if it's a maximum or a minimum. Differentiate this again, we get 6. That's greater than naught. Therefore it's a minimum. So minus 11 over 3 minus 169 over 3, that's our minimum value. So all these coordinates here now should be marked onto the graph. Quite often in your exam, blank axes will be drawn for you. Okay, so they'll just be x and y axes with no numbers on it. Now you're not expected to do it exactly to scale, but you should be aiming for roughly to scale. It'll make it easier to draw. So this is our minus 16. Okay, so we're not minus 16. Then it crosses at 2/3, and it crosses at minus 8. And our turning point is minus 11 over 3 minus 169 over 3. Now you should be drawing a smooth curve through this. You should be better at doing this than me. I have the camera in my way, so it's going to be fairly difficult. Yeah, so you would do a better job of that. That should be a nice symmetrical smooth curve. So that's our first one. Okay, Our second one then, sketch y equals 9 minus 4x squared. So again, find where it crosses the y-axis. So that's when x is 0. So we get the y value is 9. So 0, 9, that's our first coordinate. Find then where it crosses the x-axis. So that's when y is 0. So you can solve this one in a couple of different ways. You could say, well, it's the difference of two squares and factorise it out, or you could take the 4x squared over. So x is the square root of 9 over 4, and this is where you have to remember when you're getting the square root, it will be the plus and minus values. So our two coordinates are 3 over 2, 0, and minus 3 over 2, 0. Okay, and then our turning point, again it's a quadratic, so we've only got one turning point. So dy by dx, differentiate this, we get minus 8x, that equals 0 for turning points. So x has to be 0, which means that y is 9 minus 4 times 0, which is 9, which is exactly the same coordinate that we've got up here where it crosses the y-axis. So this happens to cross the y-axis at the turning point. Now find d2y by dx squared. It's minus 8. That's less than 0. So it's a maximum. So our 0, 9 is a maximum. Okay, so again in the question quite often the x and y axes are drawn for you. And we know this goes through 0, 9, and that's our maximum turning point. It goes through 3 over 2 and minus 3 over 2, 0. And again, you should be drawing a nice smooth curve through your points.